Well, a very warm welcome to another vlog, and it's not deja vu. I am back in Scotland, and Greystones Camera Club have arranged a group trip here over the next 5 days. And we have just left Glasgow about an hour ago. We're searching for a place for breakfast as the pangs of hunger grab hold of us. But that was not to stop us stopping on the side of Loch Lomond and taking an image of a lone tree there, and here at the Falls of Falloch. From here we'll make our way north to Glencoe. And the falls here are quite two-dimensional from the height that I'm standing on here. But a few minutes ago I walked down the rocks and a little trickle was in front of the camera, and using that as a foreground and the falls as a background, it added some depth to the image. So I hope you enjoyed the next 4 or 5 days in Scotland, and I hope we get some good light coming through that drizzle which is forecast over the next 5 days. Well, our second location today is the wonderful Kilchurn Castle. It's a middle of the day shot, but the light is low and we've been caught in a squall of heavy rain, requiring the rain gear to come out from head to toe. So I've persevered, and the shot that we see behind us is led into by the rocks in the foreground here, and I've taken a portrait orientation shot with that mist in the background, with some of the lower parts of the hills here visible. So we've moved on to the Glen Nevis, and I think we're all mightily impressed with the scenery as you drive through the Glen and the mountains encroaching on both sides. So we've driven to the end to this wonderful scene and a series of rapids making its way around the turn here in the rock. I'm trying to compose an image around a fern and a birch tree with the falls in the background. But the birch, as you see behind me, I hope, if I can step aside there, this little birch here, it's just running across the scene, and I'm not sure whether that's adding to it or detracting from the image. Now, in addition to that, just to make sure I get something from this spot, I've shot some images of just the stones, an abstract of the stones here and the water running over them. Trying to capture that flow, the directionality of the water from the top part here right the way down, and just coming out wide enough so that so that the whiteness is all captured within the frame, and then it's framed by the darker water running around it and the cliff to the right. So we'll leave it there for the time being, and we'll head on to the next location, wherever that may be. Well, when we awoke this morning, the weather was quite ominous, and as we drove up from Glencoe into the Glen, the drizzle and the rain was heavy. But once we reached the Glenative turnoff, the sun broke through, and we had some wonderful light at the Glenative waterfall. Shortly after that, we walked up the river and found a second set of rapids, and a rainbow appeared, but we just couldn't get it in the actual frame. So it was a little bit of magic this morning. A breakfast in the hotel, and then we've come back down to the S-Bends, and that's what we see behind us here. Now, getting a good composition at the S-Bends is much more challenging than I had expected. And using the rock on the right-hand side, the bulk of this square rock with the water running around it, and then also trying to get the S-turn all the way down the water as far as we can down the stream within the frame, and cramming the two of the three sisters to the top of the frame. So I played around for the past hour with portrait, with landscape modes, changing the shutter speeds. I think half a second works quite well, a third of a second works well. Anything longer just blurs the water a little bit too much. So I think we're going to finish up here and on to the next spot. This was our penultimate day in Glencoe, and as we trudged up from the King's House Hotel to the area around the cauldron, it was almost impossible taking images here. So back in the van we got, and we made our way down the long and winding Glenative Road to the very end to Lochative. And really the highlight of the day there was sitting in the van and watching these red deer just in front of us. We leaned out of the window and got our iPhones out and took some video footage and some stills. We're happy out with that. So we made our way back and really had no option but to go back to the Airbnb. So the next morning, our last day in Glencoe, really was a deluge of epic proportions. New rivers and water rolling off the hills in Glencoe, as you'll see in the video here. What a trip it was, and a big thanks to Andrew, Barry and Shirley for organising it, and Michael, Andrew, Sean and Justin for the great company. It truly was a wonderful trip away.